Jai Shri Mataji to everybody. My name is Ina. I have a background in medical sciences, and I'm a physician practicing in Canada right now. I have been asked by viewers, namely Nirmal, who wrote to me a few weeks ago and said, could you please give us presentation? So I wrote to him back. Actually, he wrote to my husband, Uncle Sergey, and I said to Sergey, please write back and ask what he wants me to talk about. And he wrote back super nicely, Auntie, whatever you want to talk about, it's okay. So anyway, I'm sure it's okay, whatever we want to talk about, but I found that I had to kind of search within and ask Shri Mataji what you guys want to hear, because most of our presentations in the past are for people who are not yogis, and we're just trying to persuade them that Sahaja Yoga is amazing. So we give all this hardcore evidence without really telling them the story of the whole thing. And then I realized, well, I can't really give you this research. You can search it anywhere and you see it, you will know it. So anyway, there's two thoughts came to my mind, and I'm going to test now my vibrational awareness by asking you, what do you think you want to hear today, or discuss, or talk about today, when we think about the health or sciences? Anybody brave enough? Any expectations? Zero. Thoughtless awareness. Okay, there was one thought there.
Who said what? Surrender.
Okay. So usually it means two things. Either people know everything or they don't know anything. So I have to tell you two things before I really go into it. Number one is none of what I present is truly mine, except maybe a couple of slides. The rest is really, I look around and I thought what would be most representative of what I wanted to convey to you or remind you, or maybe you learn something new. But I also wanted to make it really interactive, because even we stay on this level, you know, Shri Mataji said that all yogis is actually able to enter super consciousness. As my husband corrected me today, he said not super, it's super consciousness, which is a totally different level of awareness. So so this is one thing. So none of this is mine. So I can't take credit for any of this. This is a lot of work into even individual slides, and I will mention some of the physicians or some of the researchers, which I did the sort of the thing. And the second thing I'd like to say to you is that it's incredibly amazing for me even just to talk to you, because last night I realized the vibrations here were like in Cabela, when thousands of people here, and we're not thousands, we are closing to 100, maybe 120 here with all the yogis. So there's so much attention of Shri Mataji on this event. I'm sure you all feel it. I'm really just few hours with you guys, but it's absolutely incredible. So from me personally, and I think from other yogis, I want to say thank you for coming and actually creating this event. Okay. So I just put this one forward for you. Because I think it's amazing identification by Shri Mataji what really we are experiencing and what we're going to talk about today. And if everybody read, we're going to move on. I have very few slides, so there's more of a discussion thing. So here's the two things. Here's the reveal. The curtain is off. So there's two things only I wanted to talk about. One is what actually means for us as a human being. What is the subtle system? How is it connected with us? And I will give you my perspective as a practitioner in conventional medicine, what it means. And the reality is, even you experiencing the super consciousness, you live still in society where a lot of functions are really on a very basic physical level, and you need to know how these people operate, because right now you're young and healthy, hopefully, and you don't need to use medicine at all. But as time goes by, you have children and some illnesses happen, you really need to understand how to protect yourself and how to communicate with people in the health professions. So the second thing is proof of effect of Sahaja Yoga. So that we will just take a few slides, but there's so much available, there's so much research has been already done. And I will talk very briefly about research which we did here at UBC 5 years ago with the residents, physicians who were preparing to enter general practice. Okay, and if it's good with you, so we're going to move forward. If I figure out how to operate it. Okay, so here's the thing. Before we talk about anything, I think it's really important for us to establish there are certain principles we all need to be aware of when we talk about science and Sahaja Yoga. So I put it forward for you, and you know, I was just sort of hoping that you guys agree, disagree, or add to it. So the first one is about the fact that everything has vibrations. Everything actually has vibrations, right? So the little particles which we are put together with, they're vibrating. So that's sort of a clear thing. We're kind of all aware of that. So the second thing is, and this is, Srimataji talked a lot about this, is that we are not just energy, we're energy with awareness, right? So there's two things together, and it's a very complex, very intricate system. So, and the third principle is we all have Kundalini, and that's the force which connects us from our subtle system to all-pervading power. Again, we all know that. And two more. So there are 4 bodies. Who knows a lot about that? Nothing? Nothing? Okay. Okay, so what's physical body? Well, we see it all. We see each other, right? We're sitting here, we have our organs inside, you know, we have muscles, we have brain, we have hands, arms, we function and we eat and we do everything else with our body. So what's subtle system? Chakras, yeah, Kundalini. What's our causal body? Huh?
What is the name?
Causal.
Our soul.
Okay. Anybody else? What else? Huh? Elements really put us together, right? So causal is really goes beyond that, right?
Like the intuition, the other side. Things happen around us.
Okay, that's the awareness you're talking about. So if that's true, so what's super causal? What's the next level? Yes, yes, Madhurima, talk a little bit more.
No, that's all I know.
Oh, okay. Okay, Sergey, can you say something about that? No, he doesn't know. He's too shy.
Come on, Sergey.
Anyway, so these 4 bodies, the reason we're talking about this is that just to really talk about give a glimpse into how complex we are. So even we simplify it always for ourselves and for people and say, you know, we have 3 channels, 7 chakras. Actually, we're way more than that, way more than that. And probably your generation would be the one which will discover and prove, so that would be, you know, known and understood by other people, the connection between these bodies. So far, we have Eastern philosophers who are giving us this information, and Srimataji talked about that as well. So, but my point is, when we talk about anything, sciences and medicine and your body, you need to remember you're way more than just physical and a subtle system, okay? And the last one is about consciousness. So remember the slide before we talked about energy and awareness. So the consciousness is a very, very interesting thing because we actually use it all the time at different levels. So let's just go through the all 5 of this because this is important for the future. as you guys become aware, conscious or unconscious about certain things about your body. So super consciousness is what Sri Mataji defined for Sahaja yogis. That's where we all striving to enter or enter. And then supraconscious is people who can use, I mean, you see it there on the screen, telepathy. So these people can see past and the future. What's the problem with these people though? Why is it dangerous to be in that level?
It's not reality.
You get disconnected from your
Reality, yeah, it's not reality. But you also, what was happening also with you?
You're never in the present.
Correct. So you're actually going away from Sushumna Nadi. You're actually going away, right? So you're no longer where
And
you're
a lot
supposed
of
to be.
times, they say that what's actually giving the information to that person is a root that has come inside of them, who gives them information about the future or.
Perfect. And we actually were waiting for you to come to join us also.
I still have work to do. I'm just taking.
No leisure, please.
Okay, and so then we go to conscious level, and conscious level is simple, right? So you guys, I want to grab the glass, I'm thirsty, I'm gonna drink it, right? So super simple. A lot of people walk on that level quite successfully, right? And then they always anxious about the future, of course, right? So, or the past. So subconscious, dreaming, right? So something which is hovering just outside of our consciousness, but we still can become aware. You know, we dream, we wake up, we may remember, we may not remember the dream, not necessarily the dream will be the reality, but it connects us a little bit to that level. And then unconscious is the very interesting level as well, because that's when we don't think and things happen. So what the example would be of that? Actually put it there. Functions of your work. Sorry guys, I meant to ask you this question. Okay, so however, there are bridges between these levels, right? And it's very interesting because these bridges sometimes can work for you and sometimes can work against you. Can anybody think of an example?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. I didn't hear what Madhurima said about the causal and the super.
Auntie Madhurima.
So Auntie Madhurima said that it's the essence. So what I was trying to push Uncle Sergey to talk about is about, you have the essence of the earth is
It's fragrance.
fragrance, right? Let's leave it till the end. Because there's so many other things really practical I want you to. This is practical, but it's very hard. However, I was asking a question about the bridge. So when do you think it can work against you if subconscious go into conscious level? Or for you? I don't know. For or against? Exactly. You know what happened in real life when people, something which they shouldn't feel, let's say heartbeat, they start feeling, they actually get really anxious. A lot of people get really anxious. And all it is just a little bridge between these two levels of awareness. Not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it can become bad because the reaction in the mind, on the conscious level, is actually negative. What about the positive? Any positive? Yeah. Breathing, yeah. So you can actually control with your breathing, something which is we don't think about, and slow down a lot of things. In fact, there is a vagal reflex in medicine when we use very widely to actually slow down everything. And sometimes you can slow down to the point that you seriously affect your function. Yeah.
You can control your emotions that way. You're not even thinking about what you're feeling, and it would basically control your emotions.
Yeah. It's those bridges are a lot to do with emotions. Why? Because emotions are a bit of a reaction, right? So from the conscious mind. But the more you're aware of this system, the easier it would be for you to discern or to figure out when it's an issue, when it's not an issue. That's why I'm really spending time on this. So who remembers the first three from the previous slide? We're talking about 5 principles of our existence. Come on.
Physical.
Huh?
Physical sort of that. Are you talking about that?
Yeah. No, yeah. So we talked about bodies. What else we talked about?
Levels of consciousness.
Yeah, we're talking about it now. On the previous slide, come on guys, memory testing. Huh? Yes, everything vibrates, number one. Number two? Bodies, you said. And number three? Come on. Kundalini, yes. And so with number four, we see here, well, actually, there was some other stuff. I forget. What was number two? What was number two? Come on, come on. Okay, I got your attention. Thank God. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now you're with me, right? So, okay, so now you guys saw a lot of. I'm sure you saw the anatomical representation of the subtle system of the energy, right? Do you remember anything from it? Anybody can sort of say a few words about that? Yes, because I want to spend again a little bit of time on that, just so again you understand what it means to you, the different chakras and where they are and what are they doing.
They have with our breathing and our connection with the earth. At the same time, with the connection with the universe and the sense of connection with the
Okay, so now we established we're all very complex being, and these systems has to communicate somehow. So physical body is like a medium, right? So electricity runs through the wires. So energy runs through our nerves. So the way God created us is incredibly beautiful, and probably not everything is totally discovered how it's supposed to work. So we have two types of nervous system. One is central nervous system, our brain, and the one we call autonomic nervous system. So that autonomic nervous system divides into two parts. One is sympathetic and parasympathetic. So they're in a constant struggle for balance. And that's just like us, you know? So sympathetic nervous system has two channels, actually, physical channels in our body, like a string of nerves. And parasympathetic is way more complex, but this parasympathetic is really our sushumna. And it is interrupted at this level. It's physically interrupted. So the all upper chakras up to Navi chakra is by vagus nerve, and then there is a separate system below. So anatomic review for you a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that well? No? Too small? Okay, so when we get realization, we actually have physical change on our in our nervous system. Our system changes physically. The discovery of how exactly it happened is not there yet. It will be with you guys. There's also another thing, Srimataji actually said in one of her lectures that it's not discovered yet, and she said it in the 90s, that the flow of impulses in sympathetic system actually, because right now we think it goes either way, but she said no, left side goes up and the right side goes down, and it will be still discovered. A lot of things she mentioned in 80s has been a real discovery in science later on. So I'm kind of waiting for that to see and ask. So, and parasympathetic is a bit more intricate and very fascinating system. So when we say an autonomous system, you know, it just essentially means, and Srimataji explained that really somebody else is doing it. And this is the biggest mystery of health sciences, because even there's a lot of things discovered and done, like defibrillators for the heart and pacemakers. But you know, the reality is that one center in the heart stops sending impulses. There's nobody can do anything. Nobody. Even we know, analyze, whatever, nobody can do anything. So a lot known about the system, but even more unknown. And again, it's probably in your generation, you will hear more and more discoveries, even about our basic physical stuff, right? So then, just a little bit I wanted to spend with the Agya chakra, because it's a very special center, and I actually was hoping Sergey will talk to us a little bit, please, because he just yesterday read something which I didn't know about. Come on, tell us. So, you know, animals do not have ego, right? So they actually don't, and they go on fours. As soon as we stood up on twos, things happen to us physiologically as well. So,
Didn't hear that, but.
She said now we need to walk again on fours. Into our ego.
But apparently, when ego is big, it pulls the head this way. Physically, physiologically.
Well,
Okay, explain what you
I am too loud anyways.
Yeah.
Well, now you realize that I'm a husband.
Yeah.
It's been like that for 32 years. But there's a little disclaimer here. She was trying to pull me into this conversation all the time, and I was resisting. There's a hidden secret there. I'm not allowed to talk when my wife is talking. I was very cautious about it. Am I jumping the gun or not?
Yeah. Make an exception for you.
Yes, okay, thank you. Well, I don't know what you talk, you know more than probably I do. Anyway, you grew up with Sahaja Yoga with Sri Mataji from very early age, you know, Sahaja knowledge, and I'm just trying to kind of educate myself listening to what Sri Mataji says. Fortunately for me, I've been discovering fascinating things almost on a daily basis, because I'm really mesmerized with the Sahaja knowledge. Whatever Sri Mataji delivers or delivered to us, it's so fascinating. Even yesterday I was listening to this talk about ego and Agya chakra Sri Mataji was presenting. I don't remember the year, I try not to memorize, not to pollute my brain with extra information, but that was fascinating. What was she talking about? The anatomical basis of our Agya chakra, particularly ego and super ego. And so she was talking about pituitary gland, which is controlled by and involved ego and development of our ego. And so she said, in our evolutionary process, we as human beings obviously came out of the animal world. And as you know, animals, most of the animals are working on four extremities, legs, whatever it is, paws, and they keep their head down. So their pituitary gland is not that much developed, but as opposed to pineal gland, which is actually positioned at the back of the hypothalamus in the brain. And pineal gland obviously is connected to superego. So that's why animals are totally controlled by divine powers. So they don't have ego, they cannot develop ego, they are not able to. From the moment when the first animals or primitive people started walking on two extremities, they started developing ego. They started controlling matter. They were able to use their hands to produce some weapons, to cook, to do many things. And that's how the development of our ego started. And it was working through pituitary gland, which was at the front. That's connected to our kind of front agya. And it gets to that point that ego was growing so much that Sri Mataji says it started covering superego, just like that, from the right to the left, and suppressing superego. So in modern science, the scientists, almost all of them, claim that pineal gland doesn't function in human body. It's just like dormant. It's there physically. You can actually identify it and see it, but it doesn't work. And she says it's not true because it's just suppressed by the ego. That super ego and gland is suppressed by development of this huge ego, and that ego develops into that degree that it goes into the left side and eventually goes into our left Vishuddha chakra. And obviously, we know it's a big, big, big problem for human beings. So yeah, that's just what I just said.
Don't go. Okay, so I, for the time sake, I actually want to spend more time on this. Sorry if I say it. I'm going to use mine because I can't screen. So this is actually the only, one of the two slides I put myself together. I don't know if you guys see it. Can you see it, or it's too faint? Can you see? Okay, so this is the fusion, pretty much fusion of the conventional medicine physician and Sahaja yoga, yogini. So I'm gonna actually stand up and explain it. So if you, actually, the only reason I put it for you is for your practical understanding what to do with yourself if you get sick or if something happened to you or your loved ones, right? So if the purple, my favorite color, is healthy, then it's totally healthy. It means your subtle system in balance. The energy flows in Sushumna. You can go right and left, but for the main part, you're actually staying in the center. So when that happens, and the subtle energy and the divine connection feeds our chakras, they spin at the good speed, at the appropriate speed. There's nothing impedes them. Things are fantastic. So because physical body, remember, 100% dependent on a subtle system, you're totally fine. Now, something happened, you catch, we catch, something sits on our centers, and the imbalances happen. Physically first, you don't feel anything. You feel only on your subtle system. And that's the time when yogis can totally reverse anything that happens to them. And that's why Sri Mataji put so much attention on the health hospitals as well, because she wanted us to learn how to cure ourselves or how to clear out ourselves. And that's why so many methods were put forward, right? So then the next step, and then at that point there's nothing to diagnose, right? So you go anywhere, obviously you don't have symptoms yet. But the problem is you go to the next step. If there is no clearing out, and let's say the person is not yogi, there's no system to recognize, what will start happening is this physical body starts suffering because the energy which chakras give to the physical body is no longer there at the appropriate flow and demand, right? So, and at that point, so what, if you think about it, a lot of times people start experiencing, first of all, headaches actually, super common, right? Recently, we talk about 30% population suffering from mental illnesses, and it's mainly emotions such as depression and anxiety. So at this point, these people come in, and we really don't have anything like, your depression is 30% or something. We have to trust, right? So people will fill the forms, and we sort of say, okay, you're depressed severely, you're depressed mild, you're depressed. And then there is a pharmaceutical company super happy with these diagnoses, so they say, if you have severe or mild, here's your medication. So everybody's happy, right? Except the person. Why? Because, we kind of don't diagnose it, there's symptoms, nothing good happens. Now, this step is very, very crucial. Why? Because there's no disease yet. And what is disease? I mean, disease is a deviation from norm, right? So in physical terms, it's essentially the processes which start running outside of the normal pattern, because the core or the cause of the disease is in a subtle system, there's nothing much you can do outside that. I'm gonna explain to you what I mean by that. So we have a subtle imbalance, we have physical symptoms, and now we have recognized and something which can be diagnosed officially is a disease. And guess what? Because the way medicine functions, none of the diseases are curable. There's nothing we can cure today. neither diabetes or hypertension or any of the other stuff you know. Why? Because we don't address the cause. And then what do people do? They look outside the conventional medicine, they go to naturopath, right? Then they go to functional medicine, orthomolecular medicine, I mean, you name it, and there's still no answers. Thousands and thousands of dollars spent, no result, right? So, and if at that stage no help happens, right, then obviously physical body will move further. So this further is very interesting because conventional medicine typically cannot do much even about controlling the symptoms any longer, and the person may enter the stage when physical body cannot cope anymore with disease, potentially die. And then here's very interesting thing from Sahaja perspective, because there's so many miracles, cure and recovery, because Sympathetic can do anything, right? So it all depends on us, how much we have desire, how much we want to do it. However, there is still a point of no return for the body when it doesn't make sense anymore for the body to survive. So a new body has to be born, right? Any questions about this? Does it make sense? Yes?
Do we only get symptoms like from the subtle system, or is it also that just the physical body has symptoms? Like when you like get a cold because you were stuck in the rain outside or something. I don't know.
So you're talking really about these two different stages. So this at this time you will feel catches on your hands, but no physical symptoms. At this stage, catches and physical symptoms, but no disease yet. Here's an example: headache. You will have headache, right? You catch on the idea, you think too much, you study too much, you're unable to clear out fast enough, then you go to puja, like me initially, first 3 years, headaches every puja. Coming from puja, everybody's vibration's fantastic, and I'm like, yes. So luckily, again, we have so many ways to clear it out, to get rid of physical symptoms. Now, in reality, this is only a glimpse. Again, I want you to understand this. That's why I put those 5 principles forward for you. So everybody is at the different stages of awareness up till now, but you guys, a lot of you born in Sahaja, you came so young, you're so pure, your system pure, your physical body is pure, your subtle system pure. So sure, you may have some things you need to work out from past lives or from your families, but for the most part, you actually can really see this pattern. And the reality is, you have the instruments to go back. You can sort of probably go this way, like something happens and you're back to balance. Something happens, you're back to balance, right? However, there is another equation to this. While you know all this, people around you don't, right? So they have no chance of going backwards. So they are those people who are suffering without any chance whatsoever. So their only chance is really through you to get realization and get the same awareness. Here's my motivational speaking. Any questions about this? Yeah.
What role do treatments play in that whole thing you talked about?
So treatments allows you to utilize physical elements and a physical body and use those bridges connecting your causal, your different bodies together and clear out through that your subtle system. Elements are, thank you for the question, by the way, it's a really, really good point. So the treatments are unbelievably effective. And they work regardless whether you want it or not. They do, as long as you connect it, right? And the discrimination, which treatment to use, will carry you way, way faster forward to clear out. And obviously being together is also, really helps. One thing with the clearing though, I just want to mention is that for those of you who've been to Sahaja hospitals, you may have noticed that the customization of treatment for every person there is amazing. So it's not like everybody's reading 108 names of Sri Ganesha to destroy negativity. Everybody has its own, right? So because they are very, very particular about what the individual person needs. So when we do collective treatments, it's fantastic, but you have to remember you may need something else for yourself, super individual. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay, so not to lose you, let's move on. So I'm actually, for the sake of time, I think I'm gonna move on. So, and just super quickly show you this. So people who are using right side a lot, they have a lot of physical issues, typically. And it all starts, unfortunately, from our overthinking. So if you can see, it's sort of from Svadhisthana, right Svadhisthana, thinking, more thinking, and then our liver starts getting hot, and then liver cannot do anything anymore, so it goes to the heart, and then so you have this amazing cases where somebody is super fit, exercises 2 hours a day, and then have a heart attack, right? So that's because of this, right? So it's not because the heart wasn't bad, it's just because subtle system could not handle the pressure. And even if on the slides it looks separate, in reality the two channels are really connected, right? So they're really one part of they're really one part. So the left side, you can see here, so the different type of illnesses, and I'm sure you guys, saw it many times. The problem though with the left side is that a lot of illnesses which comes from the left side are really, really serious, like deadly serious. So I think we're better off clearing our both sides before it becomes deadly serious. Okay, so I'm done with that part. Any questions? Anything you want me to, any questions you have, anything? Yeah?
I wanted to ask you, the Sushumna Nadi, which is in spine, does it really exist medically? Because if you cut a cross section of spine, is there that thin Sushumna Nadi in it?
Physically, it's the vagus nerve. So it's actually multiple strings going into different organs like this.
Oh, okay. It's not one straight.
And the pelvic plexus. So physically, it's a parasympathetic, mainly plexuses and the vagus nerve. Okay. So it's not a channel like sympathetic.
Okay.
So what was the reason you said that in the beginning that the vagus nerve is totally different after the Nadi chakra?
Because vagus only goes down to Nabi, and then there's nothing. And then there's
no
a
anatomical
plexus.
structure which is connecting vagal nerve to the plexus, to the pelvic plexus.
Yeah.
There's no nerve.
No anatomy there.
No anatomy there.
So it's the void.
It's the
It's
void.
the void,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a true void. And then I don't know. Some you guys want to.
Don't get disappointed, guys. We're evolving. So.
Who knows? Maybe in 100 years there would be another nerve there.
Yeah.
You never know. They have discovery every time. Yes.
If someone doesn't have the realization, not connected, are these treatments still effective?
That's a very good question. So that's a very good question. I wanted to say that, but the thing is, it does work. It does. So I'm going to tell you from practical experience, any of my patients who cannot sleep, they're not realized, I tell them, we can just do foot soaking at night and try, maybe it works. All of them say it does help. So water with salt clear out first 3 centers, so you don't need full Sushumna functioning. It actually does help. But degrees this much compared to.
And I can say that whenever we work with women who have emotional problems, and we have them just simple things, like if I'm in the hospital, I'll say, why don't you try to write, your name down on a piece of paper, what the problem is, circle it 7 times and burn it. And that has been effective for them.
So to a degree, probably, it all
Yes,
works.
to a degree.
I want to comment about that. Because I've seen a lot of people do treatments, and sometimes they're effective and sometimes they're not. So that would lead me to believe it's not the treatment. That the treatment is the bridge that allows you to go between the physical body and the subtle body, or whatever. Because I mean, I had like 3 like miracle cures in Sahaja Yoga when I first started, and it really, and I like, one of them was like combination shoe beating and paper burn house, but really it was the desire power that the earth and all it just formed a bridge between, because I've seen a lot of people, and myself included, I've done treatments that really didn't seem to have any effect. So, and just from my observation, it seems like it's not the treatment.
So
It's
you need the essence, you
treatment
need
is the
attention.
bridge, it's the bridge.
You need attention. Without attention, no point, right? So attention is what keeps it all together. Okay, so super quick about this. I have to put this person on our screen. So this is the first physician who did the first proper research in Sahaja Yoga. This is Dr. Ryan. His son and his daughter-in-law continued to do a lot of work. There's also a center in Australia, huge research done by Ramesh Manocha, and Katya Ruby, another center in UK, and you've heard of them, but there's so many other researchers, physicians doing job. I'm not gonna go into much of a research except very few, and those few would be this one, because this is absolutely unique. This is the slide from Dr. Ramesh Manocha's study on the changes of the skin temperature of the meditators. You guys heard about it?
Yeah.
So it's the only, Sahaja Yoga is the only yoga which brings the temperature down. The rest brings it up. So I just want to put that one up. And then this one, I don't know if you guys ever seen this. He done a really good study on the general population compared to the meditators. And he was focusing on mental health, but you can see such a huge gap of how different the mental health looked for non-meditators and meditators.
Which one is the meditators? The yellow?
Meditators is yellow. Yeah.
So general health has a huge gap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Every category had it. Basically, vitality you can see. So they felt that they are really doing kind of great. Some of this function are not really properly represented, because some of this you want high and some of this you want lower, but that's the way he put it forward to it.
Is higher better?
What is the role?
No, lower is better.
What's the role physical?
I'm sorry?
What, number 2, second category, what's
It says
that?
role physical.
Oh, sorry. I actually don't remember. Sorry. I'll find out if you want to. I'm just going to show you super quickly this, because it's a difference in the EEG they did, and they did super interesting studies on the brain. So there is a physical change in our brain happen when we meditate. And the last one, I want to show you this. I don't know how much you see it, but this is a personal experience of doing a small study at UBC. We took, as I said, GPs, residents who are preparing to be GPs, and we gave them realization at 3 centers. And they meditated for 6 weeks, I think. 6 weeks. We tested them for empathy, the most elusive thing ever. Empathy, how do you test that? So there were standardized tests. So there was empathy and the stress level, and those 2 things are crucial for physicians, because if you don't have empathy, you shouldn't be a physician. And if you're super stressed, you can't think properly, you shouldn't be a physician too. So those 2 things were super important, and I absolutely have to say that the person who really played a huge role in analyzing all this information was Chad Daniluk, who is now becoming a professor at the University of Ottawa, and he's a psychologist. So the fascinating thing about this was that it was, even with our small group, there was statistical significance for a number of things. So one of them was people who meditated more frequently, sat more frequently, longer period of times, but did not reach the meditative state, like they were self-rating, they were getting more stressed, right? And then people who were, regardless of how often they sat, if they rated their experience as being deep, their empathy improved significantly. Statistical significances, those who are familiar, it's actually not an easy thing to achieve in this small study. So that has been clear there. And their empathy score went up. So that was such a small study, and when we presented it at UBC Research Day, people from other meditations were really seriously going after us about why this yoga and why this special and why do you think that you can reach mental silence? It's not possible, stuff like that. But the reality is there were serious numbers and there was statistical significance. So we're like, Jai Shri Mataji, you know, talk. So, so that was very, very interesting experience for us. I'm just going to put for you this. When somebody comes to you super stressed, you can quote and say, actually, there was a study at UBC, and actually, if you meditate, your stress definitely will go down. And and go into a more serious note. I'm done. I wish you guys good luck in your journey. This is the farewell from the nice kids who are looking forward to see you succeed. And I hope you stay healthy, mentally, physically, vibrationally, and I hope our generation, which is, as my husband kindly calls us, the basement of Sahaja, support you enough so that you do all those wonderful things. Thank you guys very much.
So this evening, the plan